Alright, hey everybody, Texas Stroker here in Lance's Performance Shop, LoneStarMopars.com. It's Saturday morning, you can probably tell by my voice. Out here is a late night, Friday night in the shop, getting some stuff done. Still trying to kind of get things cleaned up so we can progress, move some stuff around, pull an engine, all that fun stuff. And subsequently, the Alpha gloves got a bit dirty. The red ones are really bad. These actually would be fine, but it's kind of a themed video, so we're going to be rocking the Gedore one today. This is from Mechanics. It's very, very thin. I don't expect it to have long life, but for stuff like this, it's going to work just fine. Alpha gloves, I keep a discount in every single video. It's got the link down below. Again, I make nothing off of that. I just genuinely really do like the gloves, and I can pass a discount on to you. So take that for what you will, but we're going to jump into it right away. And this is kind of 3 to 4 orders again, just like our VHA video. I'm actually glad I went in last night because I was trying to figure out what number it would be. Kind of threw me off because, again, we had the Vera Turbo and the brand new stuff from Vera, which I didn't really number. And subsequently, I just went ahead and gave the VHA stuff 34. That means that this is KC Tool Haul 35. I can tell you once more, if you enjoy these videos, if you really like seeing the German tools, if you want to see them like compared and contrasted and, you know, kind of how they stack up against each other in a very scientific manner. Cannot stress enough, German tool reviews. He was doing the KC tool hauls long before I was. Has a lot of really good content for you to check out. Now that said, we're going to come, also don't get paid for saying that, by the way. We're going to come in right off the bat. We've just kind of got some repeat offenders, if you will, and that is usually a good thing. Now keep in mind, bear with me, might be a little bit slow on part numbers and prices, and that's in part just because, again, kind of having to swing this together across multiple sheets of paper. So let's actually, I didn't show it last time, so we will this time. Because it is applicable, it's every single order that you place the KC tool, you get a bit of thanks. Note they are back to the Felo stamped bit of thanks, which has got the KC tool logo. That may be one of my favorites. And then if you exceed the $100 threshold, which is not difficult to do, you will be able to get a German tool sticker pack. So we picked that up on most of these orders, and what we're gonna do now is jump in again to some repeat offenders from Gedore, and this will be part number EH102. You can see it beautifully right there. If you recall, you might be familiar with their blue boxes by now, which not, you know, Vera fancy, if you will, but super efficient. I really like the shade of blue, not that that matters much. So if you know you ever needed to reference one for paint on a wall, I guess it might come in handy. But that's what it is. It is their wooden holder. I've got one of these things. I decided I was going to pick up another again. They work really well with their punches and chisels. The center punches I've kind of been acquiring fit well. They are sort of tapered, and you can kind of see this hole. If it looks a little bit bigger than that one, that's because it is. And that works great for most things. For some things it's not. You might want to bore them out a little bit. But I just had a lot of pins, believe it or not, kind of sitting around. And I thought, you know, I'd kind of like to keep those sorted, and I wanted them to be tipped down so the ink, you know, they're like marker pins, if you will. I like to keep them stored in that manner so the ink stays fresh, and that's honestly what I brought this in for. Plus, it's a great chance to actually use the sticker pack. Let's see here. The price point, $8.18. You can frequently kind of catch these on like promotional sales, quarterly, if you will. Brings them down around like $5, which is a pretty solid deal. Again, it's not a cheap one. It's actually very well built and constructed. You can kind of see right there. Again, I've covered that in detail in multiple other videos, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. Something else I have covered, which again, repeat offender, is this little Gedore L-Boxx. Now, the last time you saw this thing, I believe, I went ahead and kind of showed you how I was planning to pack the Vera Craft Form Turbo, and that's what I did. And subsequently, I wanted to go ahead and bring this one in. My thoughts are I might wind up with a third one of these. It depends if I go back to what I had, because I just ditched what was in there for the Craft Form Turbo. But all of the System 4 bits, if I kind of go heavy on that stuff, I'm thinking this would be a really good option. So again, this is their part number 1102L. You can see that right there. These are actually pretty nice. Again, these aren't ridiculously priced. If you were to go to a big box store, you can get the Stanley, Assortmaster, Master, Milwaukee, whatever you want. Plano, if you're thrifty and you go to Walmart, although it's getting harder to find good Plano tackle boxes from what I remember when I was a kid. But anyway, all that aside, they're all roughly the same price point here. So I think most of these are made by Sortimo. Again, if you're very interested in this stuff, German Tool Reviews has way more comprehensive stuff on them. But let's see here. Gonna have to switch pieces of paper. 16.20, and again, if you get it like on one of their quarterly sales, this is 10 to 12ish usually. And we'll go ahead and crack her open here for it. That tool trolley, that's just kind of cool. For us to have a $16 item and Gedore to feel the need to put that there. Now, it does play beautifully with their tool trolleys. This would be something awesome. Gedore, Stavilla, Hazette, they all have really cool tool trolleys, or service carts, however you would word them. But what we come across is the price points, and that's discouraging because they're pretty expensive. But maybe, who knows, someday if the channel does really well, maybe we'll bring something like that in. Because you got to admit, I mean, you can't tell me, like, seriously. Doesn't that look awesome? Especially, I mean, my color schemes here. We got the blue, we got the black, we got the contrasting white. I don't see anything not to love, aside again from the price. So here we go, though. This is the Gedore L-Boxx Mini, and this is just like what we had because, again, I wanted to start small, in part because of the price point and in part to just see if we actually liked it. I get a lot of the Stanley ones, and again, they're about twice the capacity here. For $19.99, I actually really like them. But for stuff like this, where it's literally small and you're not going to exceed this footprint, this is a pretty solid option. Now, the way these are constructed, everything can come out of here. So if you just want to have this, if you've got something roughly yay long, go to town with it. I realize now the Black Widow is across the shop because I was having to measure an engine stand we just threw together a couple nights ago. But just to kind of give you quick dimensions on the internals, essentially 9 1/4 would probably be about as long as you'd want to go. 9 1/2 is kind of like your breaking point. If we want to measure this side, we're going to come in and we would call that 6 would probably be pushing it. You'd probably want to be 5 1/2, 5 3/4 in terms of what you're storing there. So if you've got like a bunch of, say, nut drivers or T-handle or whatever it is you're wanting to put in here, you don't want to be at that point where you flex the plastic, and yeah, you can make it fit, but then your lid doesn't hinge properly or seal or clasp. That's the trade-off, and it's not one that I want to make personally. So the individual compartments, though, if we kind of just freestyle this, about 3 1/4 wide, and the height there just shy of 3 inches again. Keep in mind, you can kind of wedge stuff in. Obviously, if you go side to side, it's like a TV screen thing, right? But that's what it is, and I'm kind of thinking, this may change, who knows, but I'm sort of thinking I might try to put some of the System 4 stuff in here, because it works really well with the Craftform Turbo, so we will see how that goes. I've tried to use that thing, by the way, a couple more times. It's just got such a limited scope. If you're going to be able to use it, it's going to be really, really solid. But if you're just kind of wanting to buy a cool screwdriver that you think will be fun to use, yeah, it is, but the number of times you can actually use it for the duration of a project is going to be minimalistic. So please do keep that in mind. We're going to come in now to something. This is one of those things I knew it could possibly disappoint me, and it sort of did, but at the same time, I didn't have like super high expectations, and I just wanted to kind of feel out what the product line was, because it was at a decent price point. Alright, so that was quite the hiatus. There was a knock on the shop door. It turns out it was my sister, and I've been working the rest of the day, and then I went back to work, and it's now, what's 5:30, which I guess is, earlier than I'd start on a weekday, right? But I was really hot and really dirty, and I was cleaning, wound up shop vac in like the whole storage room. So anyway, we're back, and I'm trying to remember, I think we were at this point, and I told you I was well aware of the fact this could disappoint me, and because of that, it doesn't really, but we haven't used it, and I wanted to kind of see what to make of it, to know what to think of the larger versions, if you will. This is from Gedore. It is their part number 640-270. It's quite strange to, be in the middle of something and then just, be whisked away for, 8 hours or so. But hey, it is what it is. The price point on this thing, if I remember correctly, $13.88. It is a magnetic pickup, a magnet, a retrieval, whatever you want to call this. The handle, what information can we garner from it? Looks like what I just told you, $642.70. This is made in Germany. That was kind of one of my perks of it. The shaft, 400 millimeters. And then right here, the head of the magnet, 4 millimeters. So pretty small, but check that out. That's actually surprisingly strong. This is a grade 8 flat washer, 3/8. Pretty impressive. I've got 1 inch right here. We'll just sort of build it up. So there's a 1 inch. And, it can handle it. All else I have available here that would be magnetic, a little bigger, is 1 1/4 inch. Why do I have grade 8 hardware here? Well, I'm trying to figure out. I wasn't sure. I think 1 inch will be okay for lifting the motor, but I thought with the flat and the lock and the bracket, I might need 1 1/4 inch. So can we get the... Let's go for the whole setup here. Okay, let me set it up. We've got lock washers too, so I'm going to come in. I've got my bolt. We'll get the lock washer. Don't have nuts because we're going to thread them into the cylinder heads, but that's just a little bit extra weight. 0 issues, surprisingly. Pretty impressed with this thing. Now, the reason I told you I was going to see what we thought of it is picture this on a bigger scale, right? Particularly this end. We want a bigger magnet to pick up longer, heavier things. Now, what prompted this was an exhaust manifold bolt down on the collector, and it was a situation where it was free and I just couldn't get to it to pull it out. And I thought, man, if I had like, a longer magnet that was strong, I could do it. I didn't think this was going to be strong enough to do it when I was looking at it. I'm pretty sure it might actually be able to do that. Those bolts were a little bit longer. I had some random sockets here. This isn't bad, I gotta say. What else can we grab? Here's a good one. Now, if it can pick this up, okay, this is a 3/8 drive, even though something this size would typically be 1/2 inch drive. This is an oil pressure sensor socket. Oh, snap. Okay. So, yeah, I gotta say, this was a good $13 we just spent on this sucker. Now, keep in mind, they do have bigger ones. There's a Stubby one that I think was included in an advent calendar. And the best thing about this, it could be pro, could be a con. Making sure the wasp, I think it's in here. Fantastic. That's going to be great. Get the brake cleaner. We got a wasp in the shop. Anyway, sidetracking away. Where was I going? The Stubby one. Similar design. Wasn't quite sure, which brand we'd want to go to. Right now, this is impressive. I'm inclined to just stick with it. And when you start getting a bigger magnet on the end of these, the price point on these things goes up in a hurry. So I gotta say, though, I'm kind of a fan of this one. Now, again, I think something I was alluding to, do you want it to be a straight shaft, like the classic, accordion pin style? Or do you want it to be flexible so you can kind of snake it through manifolds and down to whatever fill? Don't know. It's going to have pros and cons either way, but I gotta say, I am impressed. I thought this was... I was taking a shot in the dark, to be fair, and I honestly kind of, when it came in, wasn't expecting anything, and now it has exceeded my expectations. Not only just my low expectations, but it's exceeded expectations I would have had if I was expecting a lot from this tool, so I can't really complain. I mean, this is a pretty heavy, I'm not making it up, Typically, this is 1/16 inch, okay? And it's a little taller than a normal deep socket would be. It's got a hex provision here for a 1 1/8 inch. And again, since it is a sensor, they kind of downsize this. That's 3/8 drive, but good Lord, that's not light. I mean, it's not heavy, but, it's something that I wouldn't think that would have picked up, and it did. So, needless to say, I am thrilled, despite being tired. I think that was a fly. I've got the door. I don't know what's up. The bugs are terrible this year. My apologies. Now, moving on, we have one more item from Gedore. And we're going to need to preface it with this, which reminds me, I still need to film the German cable knife comparison kind of test results, right? So this is what we had from Gedore. It's nothing fancy. Beechwood handle. Cuts great. and sort of went to town with it, you know. And then we had this one from Hazette, which of course opens a little easier. Isn't exactly the most stylish. It's kind of like a cheap steak knife. I don't remember what it was I was bringing in, and I don't remember how I stumbled across this and how I didn't see it ahead of time. But I don't know that we're going to make an addendum to the video, even though I haven't shot it. I'll probably include it, though. But what I have here is from Gedore. It is their part number, 0063-08. Let me try and find it on my tickets here. It's going to be 38.77, which is a little high, yes. But it's also something, I think it was on sale when I got it. And I want to say it was like in the mid-20s. But it's right here. I haven't taken it out of the packaging just yet. And it's got Gedore's branding there, of course, on the blade. It's rust-free on the blade, stainless blade, if you will. It's made in Germany, straight up 100%. Let's see if we get lucky here. Sometimes I've gotten pretty good with these, where I could sort of just duck it down out of the way. Alright, so there we go. This is what we have now. There were a couple of reasons. I pulled this one out because, of course, it was our Gedore. I pulled this one out from Hazette for what reason? Well, this handle online and in the packaging looks awfully similar to the Hazette's, and haven't laid them out side by side just yet. So, that's one of those things. You would almost think that that's probably the same manufacturer. The blades, eerily similar. The cable provision, just about the same. You've sort of got like the brass colored rivet there. You've got the body that's a similar styled plastic, similar texture. Obviously the Gedore lacks the hanging hole. Not that, you know, I'm really concerned about that since I was getting these to be pocket knives. No branding at all on the handle. I gotta say, even though that one does look like a cheap steak knife, the handle is fine. There's no issues with it at all, and it's very light in my pocket. This one looks really good, and obviously if you know anything about me, you know that I'm a fan of blue, and of course that makes this stand out a little bit as well. I think we will have to include this. The blade looks fantastic. I mean, possibly better than some of the others we brought in here, but I'm almost of the mindsets that it could come from the same factory. Again, that's kind of the mystery, but the Gedore actually has a little bit better tack to it. Now that said, I thought this one, I remembered it having tack. It was in my pocket for quite a while, and I have not cleaned them or anything, so interesting little pickup there. Again, kind of wish I would have seen it ahead of time, but I didn't, and as such went ahead and brought it in because I thought it was a good price. And I've actually quite enjoyed using all of those knives. You'll learn more about that in the follow-up video, but fantastic little knife. I gotta say, if you're looking for something and you like Gedore or blue is your color, and you're willing to kind of step up in the price tier for these, you know, German cable knives, this is certainly a good option for you. And with that, we're going to conclude the Gedore portion of the video, and we're going to jump over to Felo time. That's right. This is, again, you know, a compilation from multiple tool hauls, and it's just sort of how I thought this would best go down, if you will. So let me try and track them down here. We're going to come in, let's just get this one done first, I think. It's not on the, yeah, there it is. No. Like I said, it's really hard when all this stuff is like spread out across multiple sheets of paper, and then I have to come in and do my math and adding and everything on them. This will be their part number 23006, eerily similar to some VHA numbers we've been dealing with in our System 4 video, the previous tool haul. And if I drop this down, this has a 493 on it with a 6x100. You're thinking, oh, you got a bigger tack claw, huh? You must really like that thing. Tell us about it. Well, I would love to, but this is just a all, right? And the reason for it, you're probably thinking, that's not really necessary. Here's my thoughts, all right? What I plan to do with this is on the truck, there's panels that are, I assume, leather. It could be some other material, but I could certainly make them out of leather. And they're actually in okay shape. You know, they still have some provisions to them. That said, having to remove the radiator and remove the condensers and remove the body panels and the plastic push pins, I'm afraid they're going to get torn. I think one of them has a couple of tears. And, you know, once like that corner is gone, you know, you're just solely relying on the push pin to kind of keep it in place. And then, you know, with wind and turbulence and all that stuff, it just kind of comes down, and then once it does, it's just going to flap, and then that's going to tear somewhere else. So in the event that I decide to make new panels, and there's also a chance that I go with an intake system that's going to have a ram air duct that's actually going to route. I waited a long time to hear back from tech support. I was unsure. I thought that the ram air tube was going to go to the front bumper cover, like, kind of like near the fog light area. They told me it just goes out by the radiator. I'm like, okay, well, that's an issue because I've got panels there, right? So if I have to cut a hole in it, I just as well keep the stock one intact, make my own, and that's honestly what we brought this in for. So we probably could have used a center punch or something, but the fact of the matter is I actually like the handle on this little tack claw so well. That's exactly what we have here. Fittingly, this or one very, very similar, they've got a few options with awls, became available on Tool of the Day, which granted these are so cheap it's kind of irrelevant, but it, every little dollar saved helps you, have it to spend on another tool, right? So nonetheless, I do like these handles. They feel good in my hand. They don't slip. They've got good texture. They provide good feedback. And if this helps me out in that one setting, it's great. If not, I can use it for ice picks, because that's what I remember all the old people doing. When I'd always see these things and be like, why do you have that? And they're like, let me show you. And they break some ice with it. So price point on that Felo is going to be $585 standard. I think on Tool of the Day it was like maybe $395, somewhere in there. So again, they are relatively inexpensive, and I do also like the fact it kind of looks old. It's sort of like the throwback acetate handle style, and it is, as mentioned, surprisingly comfortable in hand. On that note, let's jump into this one. Let me see. I've got to track down the part number for you. I must be on this page. That's great. Let's see. Doesn't help that I had 8-hour hiatus here. Felo 62901, only 1070, which is, I think, a steal. Okay, if I drop it down like this for you, it's a T handle, and you're thinking, okay, didn't you get one of these? Did you buy another one? Is it that good? Didn't buy another core drive. That's what I kind of tested out, but I liked it so well, I went ahead and I optioned out for a 3/8 drive. So exact same handle, exact same setup. Got the hanging hole on this side. It's got the 3/8 square drive. Nothing fancy, just a very well done matte chrome, positive retention on the sockets, and nothing really that I can hate on about this thing. Here it is with its sibling, the quarter drive, which, apologies if it's a little dirty. It's been used. How I know I actually liked it. And again, valve stems, not valve stems, but valve covers. Perfect example of these in use. What I want to do here, I had this, I believe 5/8, could be 9/16, sitting around, and that's why we grabbed it and tested it with a magnet. I don't know what it is. It's just my old Craftsman stuff. I think some of my 9/16 and 14s, like the 9/16, the 14s have never been used much. The 9/16s have been used a lot. Subsequently, the 14s were fitting a lot better on a lot of stuff on the truck that I know was 9/16. The front accessory bracket conceivably could be metric, but anything on the block should be SAE. But that said, that is a really good fit. I mean, this is almost like Felo, Craftsman, something along those lines. There's no slop at all in that. It is surprisingly solid. So I've been really happy with the quarter drive. Picked up the 3/8. And like I said, I have zero complaints, especially at that price point. I mean, that's like if I walk into AutoZone or O'Reilly's price point. Assuming they would sell one, which they probably wouldn't, you'd most likely have to buy a set of 3 for like 19 or 24. But 3/8 drive, T-handle for $10, can't complain there. Moving on, let's see here. What did not fall down? Well, we'll pick that back up and go to town. Like I said, we'll kind of spruce this up as we continue to progress. I guess we're just going to go ahead and jump in with these, okay? This is something, again, just to kind of get free freight on some of these orders. I've got items that I kind of wish list and then I stick them on. Saves me time. Just, I'm typically doing this, late at night, right before the deadline for Tool of the Day goes away, or shortly after it happens. It's either one or the other. There's really never another extreme. And, I've always told you I kind of want to do, you know, like a Stubby showdown, shootout, show what's available, see what I like, see why we like it. And of course, since we're in Felo mode and all this stuff is relatively low buck, I mean, you got like 15 bucks for those two tools. I went ahead and I brought in two of their Stubbies. Of course, we're talking Stubbies. What's most useful for me? It's going to be a number 2 Phillips. And right here, I believe, let me make sure I don't cross the numbers. This will be 61511. It'll set you back all at 933. Again, you can often find Felo quarterly sales that will greatly reduce that. It's the classic Ergonics handle, the black and yellow people have come to know and love. Features a hanging hole, no marker. It's a 25 millimeter shaft, so the tip itself pretty stubby. Got a little bit of exposed shaft, and then the handle side though, a little bit longer than some people might like, but it does have good ergonomics. It stays true to form with the Ergonics line. And what I wanted to do, kind of a direct comparison for that one, and something that worked well with my wish list, because I added them kind of back to back. Also from Felo, this is, and they have quite a few. If you don't remember, we brought one in long ago. I have it here, I'll show you. But the one that we got here is going to be part number 22110. It's also 2-inch, or number 2 Phillips, 25 millimeter shaft. Every time I film, there's text messages out the wazoo. I don't know what it is. But I want to drop this one down for you, because there is a difference, and I'm going to keep my hand conveniently over the one down below. I figured this was going to be the exact same screwdriver with just the different texture, right? Different color scheme, same profile, if you will. That is not the case, shockingly. The Felo Frico, which again, I don't care if that's not how it's pronounced, that's what I say, and I like it. It rolls off the tongue. It's kind of cool in my opinion. It's got the part number, the barcodes. I know a lot of people hate that. I'm sure it'll wear off over time. Has the hanging hole, has the red cap, which will get your attention, easy to spot in a tool bag. There's a profile. Again, every time I've used Felo bits, I've been very happy. Aside from their power bit, that thing is really, really thin, and I'm not a huge fan. That said, it has performed okay. Just, you know, not quite what I expected. Now, if I hold this one in hand, it feels great. It's very bulb style, right? You know, you got a big back end, and you kind of get your speed zone, and it branches out. Fits nicely. It's eerily reminiscent of like VHA's soft finish Stubby. This one, now when I put them side by side, you see the difference there? This is sort of like tall and slender, while this one is bulb style, okay? So this one has got the taper to it, and this one is just a little bit fatter on the back end. It's going to come down to personal preference, of course, since these are roughly the same height profile. Again, with a Stubby, the ultimate value, in my opinion, is how stubby is it, how close can we get, tight quarters, that's why we're using it. And a lot of the designs kind of mitigate that by default. But the business end on both of these 2-inch by 25. This one has a hex anti-roll. This one, anti-roll integrated, not hex. I don't think you're going to be able to see it. We probably shouldn't waste the time. Oh, it might work. So if you think you see lettering there on the rubber, okay, go down from the number 2 tip to the kind of matte chrome shaft, and look right there. Germany. Huh? How about that? I don't know if I've ever noticed that on any of the others. Felo is located right on the flip side. I thought that was a nice touch, and that means it should also fit very well in either the KC tool screwdriver holders or the VHA ones. So just for good measure, since it is right here, this was the first Stubby, one of the early tool hauls here, and I grabbed this just, you know, kind of unfamiliar with everything, and I thought, hey, what's the smallest Stubby I could get out of this? Shortly thereafter, of course, we brought in offset drivers. So, have used this one, do like it. Haven't used it much because, you know, I was planning ahead for this day, but there's kind of a little teaser of a Felo lineup. I won't bore you with the VHA one, we'll save that, you know, for a later video. But what I want to do now is jump in to the Felo Smart Handle. Alright, kind of brought this sucker back out with those Vera 89mm bits, because it turns out it's a great fit and everything. There's the handle. It's kind of the similar texture to like the Frico and Ergonic. It's sort of like a borderline point. If you're unfamiliar what this does, you plug a bit in here, and it's going to be a situation where it's like a screwdriver. And then the magic happens whenever you press up and you get a T-handle out of it. Sort of the best of both worlds, right, in one compact tool. What I decided to do, we need to kind of trick this one out, right? We haven't done much with it. And so that's exactly what we did. Let's see what page it's going to be on. It will be right here. We're going to start with this one. Part number 50310. Sets you back all of $8.02. And it's what I thought would probably be the most useful out of all the blades. I feel like I plugged this into the Vera one. It's where you may have seen this ahead of time. But I tried to keep it in good shape here for you. And I'm not sure I'm going to put these back in their case. It's another deal where one of those little miniature L-Boxxes comes in handy. But this blade right here is going to be really nice, and the reason for that, number 2 Phillips on this end, 6.5 millimeter slotted on this end. And those, in my opinion, are pretty much your bread and butter. You can get a lot of stuff done with them outside of like specialty fasteners. So this is Felo on Felo, right? You know, there's no mixing of brands, nothing crazy. You can see in here the positive retention. There is a bit of play in that, probably more than you would want, particularly when you consider this handle, you know, was made for this holder. This blade was designed for this. It's not like we're mixing brands. It's not like VHA plus Vera. It's nothing crazy like that. This is all Felo as intended to be used. And I mean, if I, you know, mega fist that, that's a lot of play. And, I don't think it's going to impact it. It's not going to be like you can't function with it, because clearly we can. Another hidden benefit, since this is a hex-shaped shaft, you can also get a wrench on it if you're so inclined. But just to flip it around and see, maybe, you know, like the Phillips will grab better or pull in tighter type of a thing. No, it's not, you know, by any means like super slop like you'd expect from like, you know, like a $3 screwdriver setup like this, but it is more than you would expect, again, from the same manufacturer across the same product line. Now the benefit though, we've got it, we don't really care, because we can just come into town and we've got T-handle capabilities with this sucker. So that was one of the blades I wanted to pick up. Again, if you're super into this, if you test it out and you're like, yeah, that play doesn't bother me, this is killer, you know, I love that handle, I love the T-handle, it's the perfect setup for me. Don't do what I do. Don't buy the standalone handle. Don't buy the bits and blades one at a time or something. Get a set. Look at the set options. See what you like. The Felo cases are fantastic. Ben over in the UK just picked one up. Not a smart blade, but like an impact driver, and he was talking about how good the case was. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You know, like their little, the one I brought in was fantastic. Their little strong box or whatever they call it. And what I wanted to do though is not just limit this to one use. Okay. I wanted to trick this out to the point that we could really do some damage with it, right? What would be the most useful thing that I would encounter with this? And I've got it here. I'm just trying to get it to pop out of this bag, so I guess we'll talk about part numbers and pricing. It's going to be part number 32128. It's going to set you back $9.52, so it costs a little bit more than the one that we just picked up. And I tell you, I don't know if I'm gonna, oh man, jeez. This one is in here, man. There we go. Finally broke through. So the packaging is fine on these, and you could conceivably keep them in said packaging, and then kind of put it in a storage system or your toolbox or whatever. It's just, in my case, if I want to use this, I don't want to go through this every time, which I don't think we would. I think it'd be better. But if you're looking at this one and you're like, hey, what's the deal there? That's going to be a way better end. It's probably going to, you know, position itself better and, you know, make you happier. Yeah, and then check that out. We have a 1/4-inch drive on the flip side. So if you haven't figured it out yet, we're going to plug this side in, not the other one. We're never going to put that one in. Now this is what I would expect from Felo. Okay, this, if you handed it to someone and they didn't know what you've just done, plug and play, they would think that this was a Felo, you know, speed driver type of a thing, right? A bit turner. And, the reason for that is there is no play. I'm going to do the same thing here. We're going to mega fist it. You don't hear that rotational mass clunking because there's no play. This is a fantastic fit. This is how you would expect this to fit. Now, the flip side is we get double function out of this. We didn't just pay $8 to have a number 2 Phillips smart blade, okay? We got the slotted as well. So essentially I'm able to carry this and I have double the bits, right? And keep in mind, the beauty of this one is we have the ability to flip it and T-handle it. And if you're thinking, hey, that looks a little longer, that's not like a typical 100 millimeter or 4-inch shaft, is it? Well, check this out. We're going to grab the old Stanley, because again, I've got the other one on the flip side. And going with what is purely functional here, okay, we've got quite a bit of it tucked into the handle there itself. This is about 5 inches, all right? And since we conveniently, for this video purpose, picked up that T-handle, I'm going to come back to the quarter drive that we brought in. And you can see it's about 3 3/4, 3.5, somewhere in that range, shy of 4 inches. So when I put these side by side, you're gonna start to follow with my logic here, right? Okay. So this is serviceable area versus serviceable area. We got about another 1.25 inches, and that's a big deal, particularly when we go into T-handle mode. I mean, check that out. All right, you see the overlap there from this point up? That's all access that we've just gained with this. And that's where I thought this would really shine. It kind of seems redundant, but I had the smart handle and it makes really good use of it. I've got these Vera sockets here. We're going to pin this one on. That's a really good fit as well. And what this is going to allow me to do, let's say we're working on the truck, okay, and we've got the factory, 5.9 Magnum valve covers, not a very tall profile. Now, what if a buddy swings up and he's got Predator heads on a 440, okay? Number one, that's probably the exhaust from that's probably gonna kill all the bugs for me. But number two, he's gonna probably have some pretty tall valve covers, right? He's got some fancy stuff, maybe some Jessel components wrapped inside. Of course, big block Mopars, we get shaft rockers as well. So anyway, let's say that this little T-handle that we always use, we're going to do, like valve lash adjustments or something. And let's say that this just does not clear the valve cover. Again, I've showcased this with an Indy one down there. I could conceivably bring it out again for you. This will. We've added all that extra height. And if you just use this for that one job, it's beautiful. We can come in, we can break them free like this. And then if we don't want to T-handle it, if for whatever reason you think you're faster going the other way, we can make that happen. So we would essentially come in and you can just then go in full-on spin mode. If we've got really long studs, I don't know who keeps texting, but it better be important. If we've got really long studs, and the nuts we got to drop down, we can come in, drive it down like this. Then when we need to tighten them, we can flip into T mode and go to town. So for demonstration purposes, let's just grab that because I can't recall the height there. But right here, we got some cast aluminum valve covers with race funk. All right, these are pretty tall. These are 440. They're designed for a raised block. And let's come in here. Now, keep in mind, with a deep socket, you can overcome a lot of these issues. But if we're sitting right here, okay, and let's just pretend this was taller, or it's a strange angle, or it's a different application entirely. And let's say that this was going to bottom out right here and we wouldn't be able to utilize it, which is not the case, but just theoretically work with me here. With this extra length in the shafts, check that out. I mean, you can't even see the tool until I tilt it down. Then when we T-handle it, we've really got a nice setup. So the Felo Smart Handle. Well, with all these texts going off, we apparently hit the max recording time. I'm not sure when it happened, but all you missed was me pulling the valve cover away and saying the Felo Smart Handle as best I know. So, back to that point, the Felo Smart Handle is a pretty cool little system. Is it going to be the best for you? Kind of depends what you're doing. It's going to depend on the applications you have, what bits you need, how much you're willing to spend, how that compares with other offerings from other manufacturers. What I can personally say is I have had that smart handle for quite a while, and we've never really tricked it out to this point, and for that I kind of feel bad, but gonna see how I like it, if we enjoy it, if there's other like limited uses or things I come up with where that extra length that you typically wouldn't have with a standard size driver comes into play, we're probably going to continue to option it out. Now, something I do want to highlight here, we're going to pull this out. We're going to get the socket off of the end, which was a very good fit again. You can kind of see this is the same distance on these two shafts, but again, that is properly designed for this. Okay, this fits and is designed for it. It's just not as good of a fit, if that makes any sense. But what I have here is it's a little pouch we picked up many moons ago. As you can see, it's designed to be worn on your belt. You can throw it in a glove box, whatever. But essentially what this would be, we'd take our smart handle, we'd put it in place like so. You can also orient it the other direction. But I believe you can get about 2 bits on each side, right? And so that's going to be a staple, and this is going to be a staple. And then we come in, and we're going to need to slide that way farther down. But this would basically Velcro, and that would allow us to have this ready to go. The bits would be properly retained. I think you could do this. Man, it is getting really hot in here. You can see right there we've got our bits, and again I believe we could fit one more on each side. Don't hold me to that, but I want to say that's correct. That'll then fold over with the Velcro, and you can go to town in that manner. You can also have that upright for a little bit, better, secure carrying option. But that is sort of the Felo smart handle in this package. Now, they do make them in the cases, which would be their little strong boxes, which are awesome. Again, if this intrigues you, I strongly suggest you check out those options, see what the bits offer. What I want to do for you, though, before we call it good, slide that sucker in. I think you could probably, I don't have one to test it, but I want to say if you wanted to, you could probably fit 1, possibly 2 more. But we know you can at least have 2 per side. So if it's a situation where you use 6.5 slotted, 3/16 slotted, whatever, number 2 Phillips, you want the ability to run sockets, and then let's say that you use T25, 1/4 inch X, whatever, you can kit this out yourself if you have one of the cases that's more comprehensive, and those are going to be like the 4 bits that encompass pretty much everything you're going to need. You can throw them all in this carrying pouch, have it on your belt, have it in your toolbox, glove box, whatever, service vehicle, workstation, and it's just right there ready to go. And again, the coolest thing about this one is not just the fact that it's going to function as kind of like a elaborate bit holder, but also that you can go into T-handle mode. It's as simple as that. That's all you got to do. Switch back. It's one-hand operation. It's really a pretty cool product, and again, I'm glad we finally took the time to put some of the proper pieces together with it. So this has been a very frazzled video, in part because it had like an unexpected interruption. I haven't heard the wasp in a while, which is good, and it's really hot in here. It's like yeah, my watch says it's about 96 right now, so it's about par for the course. But hey, that's what we brought in. I believe that is everything. Again, this is sort of a compilation of getting text messages while we check out some Gedore and Felo tools. So I think we have like 1 or 2 more that are going to be intermingled messes, and then after that we should get back to something more fluid, that I don't have to like flip through papers all the time on you. But the Gedore magnet, super impressed with that thing. Lowered my expectations, but again, it exceeded my initial expectations. This is a repeat buy, very good purchase. The price point for that nice of a wooden stand, cannot complain. The L-Boxx Mini, just since we have it here, let's go to town with it, right? Because this video is a train wreck as it is. So we're gonna pop her open. And let's grab just our number 2 Phillips one. You can see, obviously, we can't do much there, but again, this is pretty versatile, so we'll just pop them. Let's do the side, okay? I'm going to pop that one out, and we can angle them like so, which is a pretty nice option. Can't go full on top to bottom, side to side or anything, but we are able to at least get it angled. If you wanted to drop the smart handle in, you can do that. You get the idea. The sky is the limit, but it is another storage option for you. Particularly maybe if you sort of buy this one at a time. You get the handle and the socket adapter, and you're like, hey, I like that. And then you come in and you get this one because you think it'll be the most useful. And then you're like, hey, I could use a number 2 square for all these window screens I'm constantly installing. Go to town there, and if you wind up and you've got like 16 bits, look into that for a storage option, right? That's kind of how things will go. But we picked it up, we've outfitted it finally. We brought in 2 Felo Stubbies just because, and we'll have them ready to go for the Stubby shootout. We got the stainless Gedore cable knife with the blue handle, which I gotta say looks really good. And it's, again, selling point on the color, obviously, if you like it, but 2, anything not black or wooden is going to catch your eye when you leave it behind or misplace it. That's actually a big deal for me personally. The magnet, again, we've covered that. The T-handles, I love them. Can't complain about the price. And I believe that's about it. Don't forget the awl. That thing could potentially be very handy for me, so we'll see how it goes. Another thing you can use those for is like stabbing sockets to pick them up. Forgot to mention that, but this reminded me of it. So if you've like got one that's dropped down in the engine bay, or maybe it like goes under the intake manifold and you don't have a cool magnet that's strong type of a deal. If you've got something where you can pin it in like with a screwdriver or a tack claw from the other side, since we have it here, obviously we couldn't pick it up there, but if you can orient yourself, this basically serves as like a skewer. I've done that numerous times. It's looks like something from Chicago Cutlery or whatever, the good brand, where I've done something similar, and it's actually works quite well. So but with that said, I'm gonna quit rambling. I better see what all these texts are and make sure everything is somewhat okay in the world. And I'm gonna come in, clean this up, and then I think we're gonna try to crank out another one. So stay tuned for that thrilling mess. I'm sure you'll look forward to that in a week or two. But I do thank you for watching. Hopefully you got something out of the video. You saw something you didn't know existed, learned a little bit, see something you want to bring in, add to a wish list, whatever it might be. Once more, as always, not only will we have timestamps for each product, but I provide links. That way, if you're like, man, I got to get that T-handle, it's perfect, go to town. If you want the smart handle, you can just curious about it, you got the ability to just skip the rest of the video, watch that, make the most of it. So social media, if you care to follow this mess anymore, at Lone Star Mopars on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We've at least got that together. But with that said, the website is Lone Star Mopars. If you enjoyed the video, I do encourage you to leave a like, subscribe if you have not. All your support is appreciated. And with that said, I'm going to wrap this up, clean it, and get cranking on something else. So stay tuned for that, and I will catch you for more action from the shop.